All right, I'm sorry. I completely messed up that last video. I was rushing it in between a work break and I didn't show some of the correct slides. And one person out of the thousands of people who watched it actually paused the video and drilled down into the data and sent me a kind message and said, "There's something very wrong here." So I want to quickly run through some of the corrections and then I want to jump into some of your comments and just give some quick, snappy replies on them. And maybe at the end of the video, I'll then show you a bit more of the detail of the data because I know some of you crave that. So let's start with a quick little overview that hopefully will correct a few things. So our February total for the COP, the coefficient of performance, was 4.31. This shows the breakdown here, the electricity used for heating. This is in kilowatt hours, so 259.4 kilowatt hours used of electricity, and that produced 1,159.4 kilowatt hours of heating energy. So you can see our breakdown here that although the domestic hot water uses a larger slice of the pie in percentage terms, it produces a smaller slice of the pie. And so it shows you the lower COP for the domestic hot water compared to the heating COP. I hope you like this presentation style. Let me know in the comments if you prefer this to just the raw data in the spreadsheet. This shows our monthly comparison so far since we've had the heat pump installed. The dark blue bars are our COP and the lighter ones are the average temperature outdoors. And so you can see that correlation there as the average temperature outside increases, the COP also increases. So we are getting better efficiency. But interestingly, you can see that we're just floating around that 4 line. We're a little bit down on January. There was a cold snap. And now we're a little bit up in February, but not any major swings in the COP, even though we've seen quite a swing in the temperature there, taking us from just over 4.5, I think that was 4.6 or so degrees average for January, up to February where it was nearly 8 degrees, very warm for a February. So our February running cost was £32.67 for the heat pump. This was something that I got wrong in the last video, so thank you for spotting that out. I always want to try and correct any mistakes that are made. This shows the cost comparison. A lot of people were crying out for this. So if I was on the price cap, it would have cost me £92 to run the heat pump of my electrical consumption, 321 kilowatt hours. On Octopus Tracker, would cost £57 on the rate tracker plus my solar generation. It costs £33. This is all just rounded to the nearest pound. If you were on the gas price cap tariff with average efficiency boiler, it would be £130. And if you're on the gas tracker tariff, which is the big one everyone keeps asking me about, it would cost you £69 on gas tracker. So yes, gas tracker will save you a huge amount of money, but it still won't be electricity tracker with a efficient running heat pump or thereabouts. Anyway, let me keep moving on. This is cost comparison because once again, everyone wants the question about the baseline that I'm using for gas boiler efficiency, which is commonly accepted that most gas boilers run around 80% efficient. Yours, in your case, it may be higher, it may be lower, but that's a good little ballpark figure. And once again, this is at price cap rates for both electric and for gas here. No Octopus Tracker, no other funny business going on playing the markets. So you can see if we take that £130, let me go back, £130 if you're on the price cap tariff and an 80% efficient boiler, and compare that to a heat pump running at a COP of 3. Heat pump at a COP of 3 is slightly more expensive at the moment. 90% efficient comes out at roughly 3.5 COP efficiency on a heat pump. That will change from, I think it's 1st of April when the price cap changes, and that will swing a little bit further in the favour of gas. So we are going to have to have our wits about us and make sure that we are still winning in the cost stakes. Anyway, as you can see, if you're achieving a COP of 4 or above, There's no chance. Gas doesn't have a chance in efficiency. And of course, then you have a bit more flexibility in different tariffs. Gas tracker is one of the only good tariffs that you can go for if you've got an old gas boiler. Whereas with a heat pump, there's just so many ways to try and game the system. Okay, this is our year-on-year comparison, and this is our total energy bill. So this is gas and electric since we've lived in this house. So 2022 in the dark bars, you can see straight away £250 per month. I should put the actual numbers on this going forward. December shot right up with almost £350 for the month of December. And then going through 2023, March is really when we were gung-ho with the insulation. And February is a bit of a shorter month anyway, so that wins in its favour. But then you can see through the months, and then November, halfway through November is when we got the heat pump installed, and towards the end of November really started to optimise the settings. So by December, we had done some insulation. We'd also gone for a heat pump, but there's no solar in that. So you can see how the cost was reduced from 350 down to 125, something like that. I need to put the numbers on this. Also bearing in mind that energy prices did fall in that period as well. I haven't adjusted this because of any price corrections, any energy markets. So that's also reflected in this graph. This also doesn't take into account that I also changed tariffs and jumped onto Octopus Tracker, which also saves a huge amount. So this big saving from the dark blue bar to the light blue bar isn't all heat pump, okay? A lot of people want me to make that very clear. But now going into 2024, as now February is our first month with solar, you can see that the gap is widening as we not only... Octopus Tracker actually is remaining pretty consistent, whereas the price cap is dropping. So the gap between Octopus Tracker and the price cap is slowly closing, although I still believe that Octopus Tracker is the best tariff for most people on a heat pump. Unless you've got an electric vehicle, then you've got some other considerations to keep in mind. As always, a link in the description. If you're not with Octopus Energy, what are you doing? Just sign up with my link below. You'll get 50 quid, I'll get 50 quid. Okay, right, and then finally, CO2 emissions. I know a few people switch off at this point, but our CO2 emissions for the month of February, 42.71 kilograms. And you may say, so what? That sounds like a lot. Well, this is the comparison to your average gas boiler. It would have been 372 kilograms. So in 1 month, 329 kilograms saved. Yes, you can save money by running a heat pump, but it's in most cases fairly marginal. The biggest benefits are the comfort factor, which it's hard to quantify and hard to explain to people, because even by measurements in temperature, it doesn't account for the thermal mass and the constant temperature and no cold pockets and no cold spots in the home from that steady state low and slow heating. But then the other big benefit is this carbon comparison. Saves so much by jumping from a gas boiler to a heat pump. It's actually quite staggering to see how much it saves. Okay, this shows my grid versus solar consumption for February. The solar generation wasn't very good for February, but it was also such a mild month. We didn't use a huge amount of energy for the heat pump, so we did pretty well out of it. We didn't actually draw a huge amount of energy from the grid to run the heat pump, so that's pretty good. Okay, that's the end of this little presentation. I'm learning about the YouTube algorithm and trying to figure out how all this stuff works. I've noticed that less than 5% of the people watching my videos are subscribed to the channel. I'm not going to be one of those YouTubers that says, hey, subscribe to me, it will really help me and really help the channel. I think that's selfish. I'm doing this to try and give you value and help other people. So by you subscribing and liking the videos, that will promote the video to other people that could gain and benefit from this. People who really should be learning more about heat pumps, transition into renewable energy. We need to kind of spread this message further. And so don't like the channel and subscribe to the channel for me. Do it to try and help other people. I think that's probably the best way to frame it. Okay, let me quickly run through some of your comments. Okay, this is my comment section. I'm going to try and run through this as quickly as possible. Baz Curtis, you're on Agile, solar inverter links into that. You're surprised the heat pump can't. Yes, I believe quite a few of the heat pump manufacturers are already developing technology. For mine specifically, Vaillant, they have worked out an integration with Solar Edge. So if you've got a Solar Edge inverter, you may be able to do it, but currently it's not. It's restricted to German markets or French markets. So I don't think it, at the moment, it doesn't look like it's coming to the UK from what Vaillant and Solar Edge are saying. But going forward, there's going to be a lot more integration. You're waiting for your planning permission to hopefully be approved. I think for most heat pumps, in most cases, it seems like a complete done deal. So thank you very much. You like the comment about, oh, this is solar panel installation. This is not on the heat pump one. Dealing with companies. Well, thanks very much. At the moment, that's not reflected on this system because so far this is showing me that no one that's commented is subscribed. Here we go. So it shows me this little red bit and it shows me that someone is subscribed to me. So Ben Campbell probably should compare electric tracker with gas tracker rather than standard flexi rate for gas, to be fair. Okay, I've heard that criticism and your feedback, so that's done now in that presentation. Thank you very much. Hi, David. My name's not David, but thanks. Maybe you're talking to another commenter in here. I don't know. Appreciate your video. I guess you are talking to me. I find the environmental carbon part very important, but certainly isn't exciting as the tech savings. Yeah, and it's harder to quantify, isn't it? But in the important driver in my own heat pimp install, your heat pimp. Okay. Heat pump installed just days ago by Octopus. Fab Octopus, solar and battery installed in September, so very new to all this, but thoroughly enjoying the benefits and experience. Cheers for your reporting. Well, great. Keep commenting and sharing your feedback on how it's going for you as well. It's good to share the journey with other people. Okay. Oh, this is a long one. Okay. Little impact on most people, they say. Yes, here we go. Once again, it's hard to quantify, isn't it? We can easily see when we're saving money and we can easily feel the benefits of comfort, but we can't really understand the environmental benefits either locally or, the bigger picture internationally. You've had solar, you've doubled up, and batteries. Yes, brilliant. And adding some on a northwest roof. Well, wait till the end of this week. I'm going to be publishing my video about my findings, and it's a big thumbs up on the north facing panels from me. I don't know if heat pump looks like it could be very disruptive. Maybe, potentially. It depends what your current setup is. It may be a lot less than you think, or it could be quite considerable. But go in with your eyes wide open. Lots of research. 14 grand after grants. Well, HeatGeek, I'm going to do a video about comparing the costs of a HeatGeek installation to other installations. Of course, they're going to be one of the more expensive ones, but you probably get what you pay for. So if you say you've already fitted large radiators and you don't have microbore, then it probably wouldn't be that disruptive to you. Each room is zoned. Well, you're going to have to disable that. Zoning just kills the efficiency of heat pumps, and it doesn't do very much for the comfort and the thermal mass of your house either. Your condensing Bosch boiler will be 20 olds next year. Yeah, so you really do need to get looking into installing a heat pump. You left spell on. Oh, okay. So you are... Oh, you're well ahead of the game. Yeah, it's a no-brainer for you then. Go for the heat pump. Sounds like you've upsized your radiators. You've got no micro bore. Each rad has its own feed and return. So you're probably not going to upgrade any of your pipework internally, depending on your heat loss. I mean, there's lots of factors, and you say it is large. Or it's a 5-bed detached house, so I'm presuming it's large. Depending on your heat loss, you might need some considerable. A gas boiler is 89% efficiency if used correctly, which most people now do. So your figures are corrupted from the outset. Wow. Okay. P.S. I'm a Vaillant engineer and I work with both boilers and heat pumps. All right. I'm going to say you're one of the good ones out there. And you're helping people run their boilers properly. But I think this is probably the biggest statement that I'll got a bone to pick with, which most people now do. I find that absolute rubbish, even since the prices have jumped up massively. A gas boiler can, in theory, be 89% efficient or more. A lot of people, I've spoken to a lot of gas engineers, they don't even understand how gas boiler efficiency is calculated. There's no accountability to it. And although they've done their gas flue analysis, and so they know what's happening in the combustion cycle, they rarely monitor it through warm up and through steady running and then through the cool down periods through the whole cycle. And no one is actually monitoring, like they do with a heat pump, gas going in and heat energy coming out through the heat exchanger. I'd love to see some of the open energy monitoring kit hooked up onto gas boilers to see the real world efficiency, because I very much doubt that there's many boilers in the UK that are running at that figure that you've picked there of 89% efficient. Anecdotally, I'm one of 6 kids. My wife is one of 6 kids. Big families. We also are very engaged in our local community. So, we've got with our kids and everything else, we've got a big group of friends and family. And as I've been on the journey over the last few years of finding low temperature heating in our last house, and then in this new house, going the extra mile to go into a heat pump, many people started speaking to me about heating systems. And just, I'm as a complete layman, like, you're a Vaillant engineer, so I don't want to pick a bone with you too much, but maybe you're going into installations where it's a Vaillant boiler or heat pump with Vaillant own controls, and it's set up properly with lower temperature, so the boilers can condense to start with, and then probably if it's using Vaillant controls, there's probably some form of compensation control, weather compensation or load compensation. I do not have a single, not even one friend or family member that has their controls correctly set up. Nearly all of them, they've got an old Drayton timer on the wall by their heat pump or their cylinder, and then they've got Honeywell clicky stat with terrible hysteresis, and the temperature fluctuations in the home are all over the place, and the boiler just runs flat out at high temperature on and off. And I've gone and adjusted loads of people's boilers and just turned the flow temperature down, and none of them have noticed any difference in their comfort, and they're still getting enough hot water and everything else. But I really pick a bone with this. Most people now do. I know that building regulations now state that if you put a new heating system in, or if you majorly overhaul a system, then they need to be set up for lower flow temperatures and proper controls and stuff. But that is not most homes. And unfortunately, my little sphere of influence and my anecdotal information says something completely different. But what do I know? You're going and seeing boilers every single day, and so maybe you have a different perspective. Let me know what you think in the comments. I know it's a contentious issue, and I'm not meaning to attack gas boilers just on the cost differential, because as you've seen in my previous slides, even a 90% efficient gas boiler, it won't keep up with an efficient heat pump. So all things being equal, an efficient gas boiler against an efficient heat pump, the heat pump still wins on cost, on carbon, on comfort. An inefficient gas boiler, that's where the difference is. The difference between an inefficient gas boiler and an efficient gas boiler is 10 to 20%, whereas with a heat pump, it's 300% between an inefficient heat pump and an efficient one. I found this really useful and insightful. Thanks. We're currently using around double your energy for a 4-bed detached house with a heat pump. Our cop is around 4. I can't help but feel that we've got a very leaky house at the moment. I'd love to have your numbers. Okay, that could be loads of factors. I don't know what heat pump you've got. I don't know what heat loss you've got. I don't know how you're calculating your data. There's just so many variables. We have done some insulation upgrades, which will of course be helping us. And from what I understand, we run our house a little bit cooler. We find it very comfortable in 19 degrees. As always, the obligatory shot of me in my shorts. And it was -1 this morning, but we couldn't really tell. We woke up and it was very nice and warm. Okay, I care about the CO2 emissions. Good for you. That's why I'm interested in these kind of videos at all, but I don't need to know that I'm going to save CO2. That's a given. Yeah, very good. There are some people who are contesting this issue of whether heat pumps actually save CO2, but it's actually mind-blowing how big the saving of CO2 is. At least for me, it's mind-blowing. It's the cost, the savings. Really? Is that a sarcastic really? I don't know. And the how, the technology that ultimately determines when it will be done for me. Yeah, brilliant. That's a really good comment. Thank you for sharing that. I think I've covered some of those already. February 2024 was the warmest since records began. Correct. I think that was the first line of that video. So if you were paying attention, I covered that one already. Saving money is recent to me. My attitudes were formed when a 100-watt solar panel was 17. Yes. Wow. Yeah, very true. You had to have other motivations in those days. It's awesome that today we can make enough power and use it efficiently enough to power our own houses. Payback is icing on the cake. Yeah, I like that perspective. Yeah, very good. Hardly anything else in the tech world will save enough to pay for itself in a few years. Very, very true. It's those big consumption items. If you do a lot of miles, an EV could save you a load of money and pay for itself. Great. All your videos are great. Sorry if I've erroneously accused you of... Oh, this is a big comment. Okay. Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. I hear those stories so often, and not just on the internet, actually here in the real world, friends and family who have considered heat pumps and have found the same thing. You know, I've documented my journey about getting my heat pump and getting all the quotes, and absolute minefield and how challenging that was. And I can understand why people would just give up. And I am quite a tenacious person. When I've got my mind set and I've made a decision, that's where I'm going. So there's a lot of echoes in there of my experience. And I really hope that you continue to pursue this. I know it can be stressful and a considerable investment on time, but it sounds like you've already instilled enough knowledge. You're subscribed to the channel. Brilliant. 2 months, hey? Excellent. I'm sure you've seen plenty of the other videos as well. So, yeah, it's a shame, but I hope you'll get there in the end. And I do believe that the heat pump market is maturing and the whole process is becoming a lot more efficient. Great summary. Still, this is the vast majority of even the people commenting, not subscribed. Interesting. Great summary, useful data and commentary. My only suggestion would be to link in solar production to the... Okay, yeah. Also, feel free to walk through the graphs in more detail. It's tough to study it. Yes. Okay. So, yeah, I will be doing a bit more of that. Okay. As an engineer and biochemistry, I'm making my... Wow. Okay. Nuclear battery for your EV. Okay. I don't know enough to comment on that. Sounds dangerous, but fair enough. If you know what you're doing and you can make it safe somehow, fine. But yeah, I don't know. Bravery. You brave. Wow. Okay, this is a big one. Let me just skim this. Oh, so this is about the Venn diagram of about the 3 different areas. Okay. All right. Good perspective. You seem well informed on some of those points. So, yeah, thanks for sharing. And yeah, I just you say as well the CO2 feel good factor. Is a very true one because it's hard to recognize it, it's hard to quantify it, it's hard to understand it, but it does make you feel good that, you know, maybe you're making a small, little, tiny impact. Okay. Interesting to see the CO2 savings. Most of you doing concentrate on money savings. Yes. You change your gas boiler to a heat pump for environmental reasons. You like green tech. More, yes, exactly. It's the added benefit of cheaper bills and more comfortable even temperature in the house. Brilliant. Yep. Magician Man, subscribed 2 months. Thank you very much. When was your solar installed? Did you include the electricity with generator? Yes, I did, and hopefully that's clear now. Good information on plate, nice, efficient. 99% useful, 1% waffle. Oh, my wife will probably invert those two numbers. Thank you very much for commenting. Speaking as a lifelong engineer, your control juggling is totally down to your lack of battery storage. Yes, I do know that, but ultimately, you know, we've all got budgets to work to, and in a coming video, I'll explain more about how much we've spent in total on the whole project so far. Solar, insulation, heat pump, the whole house upgrade since we've moved here, how we've been able to fund that from savings, why I'm looking at the return on investment and payback and some of those other things. I just want to kind of give everyone a bit more of a big picture of, our aim, where we are, where we're going exactly. Good video. We're just about to move into a new build, which has a ground up system for heat pump installation. Good. Vaillant, Arotherm going in. Do you think that Octopus Tracker is a better bet than Cozy Tariff? Cheers, Rich. Yes, 100%. I can't understand how Cozy can be beneficial to anyone. I think the only people who are going to save money by going on to Cozy are if you jump from the price cap tariff. If you go from price cap tariff to Octopus Cozy and then you optimize the timings on your heating, I think, you could save money compared to price cap tariff. But right now, the discrepancy between the cost on Octopus Agile and Octopus Tracker is roughly the same. And then Octopus Cozy and the price cap, there isn't much between Octopus Cozy and Octopus price cap variable flexi rate, whatever they call it. But there is a gulf in the amount that you could save. So 100% Rich, if you're going for it, go for Octopus Tracker, definitely. And maybe as you work out your energy consumption, you can have a look at some of the Vaillant graphs. You may find that Octopus Agile could work for you if you're going to go with battery storage, and if you're going to go with EV and you might go on Intelligent Go, then you could save some money that way. But as a baseline, Octopus Tracker is a bit of a safe bet where you can save a lot of money right now. You're in the middle of the Venn diagram like me. There's a hobby side to it as well. Yes, very true. It has become a little bit of a hobby, and sharing this and talking to friends and family and neighbours and stuff as well. Learn about technology, heat loss calculations, insulation, how all the tech works. Finance overlooked. Safe investment. That's very true. Yes, this is a very safe investment. There's some people who like to tell me that this is terrible to compare the return on investment in your home to something like the stock market, which is why I haven't done that, because there's some people who are talking about massive returns. But this is a safe investment in your home that you live in with all of the comfort benefits on top as well. Always recommend that people use proven professionals. Yes, correct. Yes. Okay. Yeah. Great. Yeah, thank you for your comment and your feedback. That's great. Did you desludge your system before putting in your heat pump? Publicly subscribed to you 3 weeks ago. Great. Okay. Most microbore systems suffer from sludge, I find. So almost as soon as we moved into here, I started upgrading the radiators myself. I did a rough heat loss calculation and understood that basically the radiators here were sized for high temperature. I needed to triple the output of the radiators. So as I started taking the radiators off, I noticed how clean they all were and didn't have all the dark black stuff in the bottom of the radiators. I also then, when I got to some of the big radiators as well, I took the opportunity to put in some of the flush additives that you leave for 24, 48 hours or whatever in the system. And then I flushed them through as a mains flush, did 2 or 3 flushes. And actually, there wasn't a lot that came out of my system. And I was actually quite impressed when the guys came and did the heat pump, although they were relatively new to heat pumps. One of them, he'd been a heating engineer for 25 plus years. He was very impressed with how clean our system was. So in our case, it didn't need any more like specific desludging, and actually the additive and the flushing that I did probably wasn't necessary. It was pretty much clean as a whistle in our system. I was really, really surprised. Looking forward to the new solar data. Well, that is coming to you in less than a week. Another good video, and one of the tech and money ones who skips the carbon bit. Sorry, Greg Jackson has done a few talks with green energy, results in lower bills. Yes, then more people will see it as a positive instead of a negative. Yeah, green levies and smart meters. It's the non-green people who need to be shown the benefits in order to increase the demand for green. I totally agree. It's a similar struggle with EVs. A lot of people are so resistant to change and don't understand why they should go to EVs, and they're not really interested in the convenience of not having to go to a fuel station or the comfort of a nice, smooth and quiet vehicle and no oil changes and cheaper servicing. And it's only really when you give them a breakdown on how much they can save on their fuel bills of petrol and diesel that people all of a sudden, light bulb goes on and they go, I get it. I can get on board with an EV. So yeah, I like that very much. I'm here for the trifecta. Your channel is of a great inspiration. That's really good to hear. Yeah, thank you for that feedback. One question I had once, the heat pump was up and running. Did you see an increase in moisture levels and condensation? Do you find you have to vent the house at all? I haven't really seen many heat pump videos talk about this sort of thing. Keep up the great work. In theory, it shouldn't make any difference, assuming your boiler isn't ancient and has a balanced flow. We bought a cheap time. You've been tried around the house for a while. It showed the only result. Yes. Okay. You put MVHR, a single room MVHR connected into the humidity sensors. Very nice. Yeah, brilliant. So on the original comment, Jonzo, thank you for subscribing 2 months. I do have a video coming up where we're going to talk about that, and I'm going to talk about it specifically with my wife. The short answer is our moisture levels and condensation in the house have dropped dramatically. I surmise from a little bit of research and my anecdotal experience here, the low and slow steady state heating prevents moisture, high moisture, high humidity, high moisture levels in the house, and prevents condensation and cold spots because we just don't have them. Whereas I think before, high temperature heating, big swings on and off, I think that seems to prevent higher moisture and humidity levels in the house and more condensation issues. So we have massively reduced the moisture level in the house, and we're going to be talking more about that with my wife, because for her that's one of the big benefits. If it doesn't have a financial benefit, then there are probably better ways to spend that money for environmental benefits. Okay, publicly subscribe 1 month. Thank you very much. Interesting comment. What's better than a heat pump for reducing your carbon footprint? A well-installed air source heat pump will use about 5 times less energy to heat your house. That's a massive CO2 saving. Cliffs 5027, that's just not correct. Okay, bit of a discussion here, bit of debate. That's fine. We welcome it as long as we don't get into any mudslinging. Share this stuff in the comments. I've just shared my graph, which shows how much CO2 we've saved. I've done some calculations on other things that we could do as a family, as a household to save CO2. We already cycle a lot, walk a lot. We don't use a car a lot. I can't see that there's any way that we could better spend our money that would save us carbon. Full stop. There are some carbon investments, some things like Ripple Energy, for example. They do have big environmental benefits, but they have no financial benefit. Or virtually no financial benefit whatsoever. Whether you even get a return on your investment is another question. So they're good for reduction in carbon. But what else is going to save us that much carbon? An EV, not on the miles we're doing. You need to really be doing over the average UK mileage to be saving a significant amount of CO2 in your EV. So I'd love to know what you think here. Then there are probably better ways. Go ahead and list them for me. I'm not aware of them. I've done some of these whole lifestyle carbon calculators, looked at everything, even looked at meat consumption and all those kind of small insignificant things really compared to heat in a home and energy consumption in the home and transport. Those are the two big ones for most people. So Cliffs, this one, I mean, it depends how you look at it, and people can debate it, but your point is right. That's a massive CO2 saving. I completely agree. I don't know what Paul Stevens is saying is not correct. So yeah, you do say a well-installed air source heat pump will use about 5% less energy. So yeah, I mean, it depends how we're looking at things, doesn't it? Okay. Excellent video as usual. Don't apologize for waffling on. In fact, waffle on more. Well, you're gonna love this video, Daniel Barton. It's all great content and very useful reference going forward. Oh, brilliant. Good to see that it's inspiring people to follow in our footsteps. I use Home Assistant running on Raspberry Pi to automate my EV charger and battery inverter playing nicely together. No heat pump yet, but there seems to be an integration for Vaillant, so hoping to add that eventually. Depending on your inverter, it might be. Yes, I need to order the eBus little module. Comes with a little board, and I do have some bus connections in my airing cupboard that I can easily connect that into. I've shied away from Home Assistant because I see how much of a rabbit hole that is and how much time that takes, especially initially, to get it up and running. Many years ago, I did use, I had 2 Raspberry Pis for our TVs, and I had my NAS as a media center, and I got all into all of that stuff, but it was just so time consuming. And now in the day and age with, on-demand streaming services available, don't really need that, and so my NAS is kind of a bit dusty, and my Raspberry Pis are somewhere in a drawer. I think maybe I've got one in one of these drawers. So yeah, thank you. It can be done, and I know there are some people out there who are doing it. Eco-terrorist 1402, you always comment. Thanks for being a regular viewer and a regular commenter. And what I like is you always take me to task as well. We need some of that. We need a little bit of pushback. And yeah, I'm happy to share the spreadsheet like Adam did. If anyone wants a copy of any of either my data or a template of this brilliant spreadsheet that Adam's made, I'm happy to email you a copy. So if you just send me an email, there's an email address on this channel, and I'll send it over to you. You do forget about the insulation upgrade from last year. Okay, come on, compare apples to apples. So you're partially right on that. We did start the insulation upgrades in February of 2023. We hadn't done any of the loft insulation whatsoever. So that wasn't done last February. We did do some of the. We did start the roof insulation on the conservatory, turning that into more of a, whatever you want to call it. Some people are now terming it an extension because it's got a solid roof on it. Whatever. Importantly, that space out there, the conservatory, it was never heated by a gas boiler. So it has electric underfloor heating, which was woefully inadequate, and we were supplementing it with electric infrared heaters, like patio infrared heaters. We just needed so much power to warm that space. And that continued even after the insulation was put on the roof. After the insulation was on the roof, then the underfloor heating did something, but it was negligible, and there were no radiators out there. So it is difficult to completely compare apples to apples. But if we're just talking about heat pump versus gas boiler, yes, it's difficult, but the heat pump is heating more space. It's heating considerably more space, actually. About a quarter to a third of our ground floor wasn't heated by the gas boiler whatsoever, and the heat pump is now taking up that slack. So yeah, it's difficult, but I want to talk more about the big picture, the whole thing. Hey, I see you compare a tracker electric to price gap. Well, but yes, okay, so I've already done that. I would also like to see the comparison of your gas tracker. Yeah, okay. Well, you've seen it in the graph. Gas tracker still doesn't work out financially beneficial. Not wrong about the financial, that's the main factor. And solar would like less pollution. Interested to see to subscribe 2 months ago as well. A lot of people subscribed 2 months ago, I guess. Okay, great. Yeah, so that's brilliant. I'd be interested in how much it's cost to buy and install the system you have so far. It may be saving money, but how much does it cost to realise those savings? The cost is not insignificant. I'm trying to put together a video of all of our costs and how we've done that. Basically, when we bought the house, we knew that we needed to do some upgrades in the boiler and the insulation, and I was kind of hopeful that we could progress with a heat pump. So we did hold back some of the money from the sale of our old house and kind of took some of that equity to be able to fund these things, so that we don't need to use finance for it. But basically that well has run dry. We've spent 20 grand is the short of the long. That breaks down as roughly about 10 grand on solar, and then roughly about 6 grand on insulation, and roughly about 4 grand on the heat pump. That's roughly how those things break down, but I'm going to put together a whole video, so stay tuned, subscribe to the channel. I'll show you an exact breakdown on that, and importantly show you that potentially we could make that whole 20 grand back, but we're not necessarily looking at that. Our comfort level has improved. I'd pay the 20 grand just for the increased comfort and how good the house is now. So good investment. Great video from Big Heat Pump Lobby. Saving money. Say, I wish someone would fund me. Doing YouTube is definitely not the lucrative business that some of these crazy American YouTubers seem to make money. Us little English part-timers, we make a pittance from making these videos. So keep the videos coming. Always share your content with family who are considering a heat pump to show the benefits. Okay, yes. Excellent. Thank you for sharing. That's another thing to mention. If you go ahead and manually share this video with other people, then it will bump it up in the algorithm to then spread it further and promote it further. Could you perhaps give us a rundown on the potential issues around microbore piping, as it looks like my future heat pump installation is very similar to yours? Maybe share any advice I was given. Okay, great channel. Thanks for the feedback. A lot of people actually ask about microbore. What I would probably recommend is go over to Heat Geek and look at the article, Does My Pipework Need Upgrading for a Heat Pump, with a cheat sheet. Most of what I learnt about it. There was also something from John Cantor. I think he's excellent. If you want to get into learning about heat pumps, just study all of the information that Heat Geek have put out there. They've got a load of the training videos that are actually aimed at engineers as well. And once you read and understand all of their consumer advice, then you'll probably understand a lot of the principles, and you'll be able to get into a lot of their engineer training as well, and understand a lot of that. And John Cantor, he talks about a lot of the fundamental principles and some of the important things. He seems like an absolute guru when it comes to heat pumps. So stop watching me and go over to his channel. Let me tell you some of the basics about my heat pump and microbore. This is probably the most relevant thing here. So I've got 10mm copper microbore. Plastic microbore is a different thing, because you've not only has plastic got a smaller internal diameter, so it's got less capacity, but it's got inserts in the end as well. And someone who's done lots of DIY plumbing over the last 15 years, I know all too well about the pitfalls of plastic pipe work, especially if it's undersized. Basically, with a gas boiler, you're going to be running your DT at sometimes DT20, and because of that, a 10mm copper pipe will take roughly 3.45 kilowatts of energy down that pipe. And you can see that at a DT of 5, which is where our heat pumps are at, it will roughly take 1.15 kilowatts of energy down that pipe. Now, this also talks about the flow rate, and you might have resistance from soldered elbows and joints and lots of other things. So this isn't as straightforward as I've got 10mm, I can get 1.15 kilowatts. What I haven't got up here is my heat loss assessment. But basically, I don't know what kind of microbore you've got. I've got 10mm microbore, but my 10mm microbore is not throughout the whole house. So I've just got it as drops to the radiators downstairs. So all the pipework upstairs is either the 22mm trunk work, like pipework, that spurs off then to 15mm, and then some of those 15mm pipes, or in one case straight off the 22mm, then just has 2 meters of pipework, or sometimes a little bit more than 2 meters, that goes down from the ceiling down to the radiators downstairs. And they just use it to thread in the dot and dab between the plasterboard and the blockwork. So they've got that 10mm threaded between them. So in my case, it's a very short run, and I don't have any radiators that require more than 1 kilowatt of heat. So we don't potentially need any hydraulic separation, which is a buffer tank. We do have a buffer tank, and we have a buffer tank for several other reasons, but buffer tank also means we can slow down the flow rate to some of our radiators, which will decrease the noise. If you turn your pump, if you're on a gas boiler system right now, you can turn your pump up to maximum, and you'll hear that some of your pipework will get noisy, especially around elbows, TRVs. If you've got microbore, you might hear some of the pipework either being creaky or whistling, or any of those kind of system noises. What else is there to say about microbore? First, you need to kind of work out you need to work out your heat loss for the room. If you've got just one radiator, then you need to make sure that the room is under 1 kilowatt of heat loss. You could do that by insulating, as we've done in some of our rooms. Insulation has kind of saved us from not needing to upgrade the microbore. But then also the potential is add in a secondary radiator, and then you'd need to weigh up whether it's going to be less disruption to just upgrade your 10mm microbore in one of those big rooms to 15mm, whether you could do that. Some of the installers, depending on your house layout, may be able to lift your floorboards upstairs, cut the 10mm off, and thread 15mm pipework through studwork, through between the plasterboard and the blockwork, and you may be able to get 15mm down through your original holes without having to chase anything out. It depends. If you don't have plasterboard, and if you've got wet plastered walls that have had your microbore pipework chased into, then you're going to be out of luck, and it's going to be disruptive. So yeah, hydraulic separation is something that we do have. We've got hydraulic separation, we've got a buffer tank, and that's another issue. But yeah, basically, this article is absolutely brilliant. It talks about the velocity, it talks about the capacity of the pipes, it talks about DT. I recommend you study it. I'm just a layman. I did enough studying to apply the principles to my own installation, and luckily for me, everyone that quoted agreed with me that the pipework didn't need upgrading. And it was one of the reasons I didn't go with Octopus, because at the time they had their blanket ban on, we're not installing on microbore, microbore is the devil, which we now know isn't the case. And I'm just one of many that is running a very efficient system with microbore on all of my downstairs, not all of them, most of my downstairs radiators. Okay, I can't get this into frame now, can I? Great video as usual. Could you do a video on what your data collection setup is? Are you using the numbers provided by the heat pump? I've heard that they might not be reliable depending on brand. Do you have a secondary sensor like a separate energy monitor? What are your assumptions when it comes to converting from kilowatt hours to CO2? Do you need to read the data manually on a daily basis and put it into your spreadsheet, or can you just grab it all at the end of the month? Maybe run through a sample calculation. Wow, this is probably a whole video by itself. I don't have open energy monitoring. Just so you guys know, Heat Pump Monitor, the website, you don't have to have independent energy monitoring equipment to be on that chart. So there could be people with Vaillant or Daikin heat pumps that are just using the inbuilt manufacturer monitoring and are submitting that data to heatpumpmonitor.org. So it's not necessarily a level playing field. You may look at that and think, oh, that's great, everyone's using the same monitoring equipment. That's not the case. Another aspect to consider, there's some people on there, especially if you go over to the forum side of it, Open Energy Monitoring forum side, you'll see there's some people there where they've backed up the heat pump to the house, and they've got only the clearance behind the heat pump, like 100 mil behind it, and then they've got their cavity, and then literally as the pipes come inside the property directly through, they haven't got 2, 3, 4, 5 meters of external run, then they've got the heat pump, the heat meter fitted right on there directly at the heat pump. And then in contrast to that, there's some other people that they have got the pipework running out of the heat pump up the side of the building, up into the loft, 2 stories, across the whole width of the house, down the other side of the house, into a plant room, into an airing cupboard, and they've got a heat meter fitted in there. It's like 20 odd meters of 28 mil pipe work with the associated restrictions on all of those elbows. You've got at least one at the heat pump, you've got at least one at the ceiling, you've normally got 1 or 2 in the loft, as it can't be a straight run, and then as it comes down, and then they've put a heat meter on there, so the flow at the heat pump is going to be different, and the temperature, of course, there's going to be heat losses involved, so it's not necessarily a completely fair playing field. I don't really know. I have done some calculations based on my heat loss, based on how much energy we put in with our gas boiler, and I've done some calculations to know that my Vaillant self-reporting is in the ballpark. It could be plus or minus 10 or 20%. I have to be fair about that, but it does seem to be pretty accurate. From what I understand, the heat meter side of it, on some of the smaller capacity heat pumps, the 3 and 5 kilowatt heat pumps, can sometimes be inaccurate, but quite often the larger heat pumps, apparently it can be more accurate. Anyway, there's a lot to unpack with that anyway. From what I understand, some of the heat pumps. So there's Energy Stats website. The guy on there, he has Open Energy Monitoring Kit. He did, over the course of several months or maybe a year, he compared his Vaillant calculations to his heat pump, his independent heat meter monitoring kit, and he found that actually the Vaillant was pessimistic, that the Open Energy Monitoring Kit was more optimistic. Now, other people have found other things, so it seems to vary so wildly. But the only thing I've got to say is at least we have some monitoring. We don't have that with boilers. Boilers just don't monitor in the same way. I'd love to see the kit fitted on a gas boiler and see actually how efficient they are. On the assumptions when it comes to converting from kilowatt hours to CO2, that's really easy. If you want, you can. There's loads of websites that show you how clean the grid is, and you can localize that to your area, because different parts of the country will have different grid mixes. If you live in a part of the country where big wind farms and stuff like that, your energy consumption will be lower. You can download all of that data in CSV files. You can also download your smart meter data in CSV files. There's lots of ways to do that. If you're with Octopus Energy, it's super easy to do that. And of course, then you can either average it out per day on how grams of CO2 per kilowatt hour, or you can then break it down in those little half-hour chunks or whatever it is. That's really easy to do. There's no problem. I think I have covered that in a previous video, but yeah, that one is an easy calculation anyway. Oh, and on the electricity side, I do have a separate electricity meter for the gas for the heat pump side. And I know that basically what Vaillant is reporting in terms of the energy consumed is bang on. It's absolutely bang on the money. So I've got no questions about that whatsoever. I might have just repeated myself there. I'm not sure. Do I manually read the data on a daily basis, put it in a spreadsheet? No, I don't. You can export all of this as CSV as well. So the My Vaillant app, I can export that at any time I want. So all of that comes out, and it comes out with lots of decimal places and needs lots of formatting and compacting down to do that. So you could manually put that in from the app, but yeah, I don't read the data from any meters or anything else like that. No. It looks great. Can't see. Oh, this is on our Lecker video. Looks great. Can't seem to find the video with the cost, etc. My quote for similar was approx $9,000. Okay, I presume that's just for supplying that roof kit. I'm going to be talking more about my Lecker roof in the near future. A lot of people have been asking about that because that is part of the whole house upgrade. So I want to get back to more big picture rather than, you know, macro, focusing in on just the heat pump, because it is working very well as a whole system. I think you might be the person who emailed me directly on the channel email, so I think I've already sent you the info back on where I got my quote from. Anyway, thank you everyone. I've been waffling on, and I'm going to upload this video. I hope it helps. I didn't even get to the most important bit. Okay, let me just pop this here. This is the data. So some of the data was wrong in the last video. Here it is. And this is how I worked out the Octopus tracker, gas tracker, because this is the gas tracker rate. As you can see, it averaged under 4p for gas on the Octopus tracker. And this is how I came to that conclusion, that the price cap was 130 and the gas tracker was £68.70. Anyway, all of these figures are correct. I'm sorry if the previous video wasn't perfectly polished. I don't really have enough time to invest into the channel as it warrants. There's so much more that I'd love to share and say and do, but ultimately I've got a day job that actually pays my bills and takes care of my kids' very expensive lives. So that's all from me today. Sorry if there's things that I've missed, and please leave some comment and like and subscribe and all that good stuff. Bye.